There's a dollar amount where your money starts outrunning you, and almost nobody knows theirs. If you're putting away $500 a month, that amount is $72,290. Below that balance, you're the engine doing the work. Above it, the market adds more to your account every year than you do, and it never gives that job back. That's the number this video is about, except the number isn't the strange part. The strange part is the clock. Getting from $0 to $72,290 at $500 a month takes 8.5 years, or 102 months exactly. Now run the identical math on somebody saving $100 a month. Their line sits way down at $14,458, and they reach it in 102 months. Somebody saving $5,000 a month has a line at $722,896. They reach that in 102 months too. The clock doesn't move. Not for the janitor, not for the surgeon, which is no coincidence and no rounding artifact. It falls straight out of the arithmetic. 3 people, 1 formula, 3 endings that look nothing alike, and one of them saves more than double what the others do. His reward for that is roughly $1,172,000. Renee is 34. A dental hygienist in Tampa earning $79,000. She sets up $500 a month into her 401k and stops thinking about it. Marcus is 41, an HVAC technician in Columbus earning $68,000. He starts the same $500 a month, a full 7 years behind Renee, and he's painfully aware of the gap. Wendell is 47, a warehouse supervisor in Reno earning $61,000. He's the latest starter of the 3, so he's also the most aggressive, and he commits $1,100 a month. All 3 begin at $0 and earn 8% a year. I'll come back later to whether that 8% is honest. On paper, Wendell is the one you'd root for. He's saving 120% more than Marcus while starting 6 years further behind. Hold on to that. It ends up costing him $93,600. Most people picture compounding as a curve that bends upward. That's accurate and completely useless, because nobody can act on a curve. So use this version instead. 2 sources of money land in your account every year, and one of them is you. In year 1, with a balance of $0, your $6,000 does effectively all the work. The market kicks in a couple $100. Your crossover point is the year those 2 numbers trade places. It's the first 12 months where the market puts in more than your paycheck does. And nothing happens on that day. No email arrives, no alert fires, and your statement looks exactly like the 101 statements before it. That silence is precisely why almost nobody can tell you their own number, even people 20 years into saving. It deserves more attention than any other figure in your financial life. It's the moment your balance stops depending on whether you keep your job. The formula is embarrassingly small. Take what you contribute in a year, then divide it by your growth rate at 8% with monthly compounding. That shakes out to 12 times your annual savings. It lands on 12 at every income level. $250 a month is $3,000 a year. So the line sits at $36,145. $500 a month is $6,000 a year. And the line is $72,290. $1,100 a month is $13,200 a year, putting the line at $159,037. $2,000 a month is $24,000 a year, and the line is $289,158. That 12 is worth memorizing. It's about the only number in personal finance I'd tell someone to tattoo on their arm. Pause here and run yours. Take your annual contributions, include the employer match because it counts, and multiply by 12. You now know something about your own money that no statement will ever print for you. Back to that clock, because 102 months for everybody deserves an explanation. Both sides of the equation move together, which is the whole answer. Double what you save, and your target doubles right along with it. The finish line retreats at exactly the speed you chase it. So the date you cross over has almost nothing to do with how much you save. From a standing start, it depends on one input, and that's your rate of return. At 10% a year, ignition comes at 6 years and 9 months. Drop to 8%, and it's 8 years, 6 months. At 7%, you're waiting 9 years and 9 months. Down at 5%, it's 13 years and 8 months. Saving harder doesn't buy you an earlier ignition. It buys you a bigger fire on the same date. That sounds like bad news, and it would be. Except this math assumes one thing that most people watching don't actually have. Every number so far assumed you're starting from $0. If you're 41 and looking at a real statement, you're probably not at $0. Vanguard's How America Saves 2026 covers 4.6 million 401k accounts through December 31st, 2025. The median balance in there is $44,115. The average is $167,970, pulled way up by high earners. Take the median. If you're holding $44,115 and adding $500 a month at 8%, your crossover isn't 102 months out anymore. It's 32 months out, which is 2 years and 8 months. Sitting on $25,000 puts you 59 months away, and $10,000 puts you 83 months away. If you hold $100,000 and contribute $500 a month, you crossed over already. It happened in silence, and nobody sent word. Vanguard reports 35% of participants hold more than $100,000, so roughly a third of them are past the line right now. They're still thinking of themselves as the engine. That same report says 1 in 4 holds under $10,000. Both facts live in one data set, which tells you how uneven this really is. So if saving harder doesn't move your ignition date, what does? There are exactly 2 livers, and both are worth real money. Liver 1 is your rate of return, and the sharpest version of that is fees. Suppose a fund charges 1% a year, so your 8% quietly becomes 7%. Your crossover balance climbs from $72,290 to $82,999. And your ignition date slides back 15 months. That 1% also follows Marcus all the way to 65. It takes his ending balance from $433,323 down to $391,951. 1%, charged politely, costs him $61,371. Lever 2 is the balance you're starting from, and this one is the good news. Drop $10,000 into the account today on top of the same $500 a month, and your ignition date jumps forward 19 months. Put in $20,000, and it jumps forward 36 months. That's what an old 401k rollover or a decent tax refund actually buys. Not a bigger number someday, but an earlier date. And the date is the thing you can't manufacture later. For context, $10,000 left alone for 24 years at 8% turns into $67,766 all by itself. Marcus starts at 41 with nothing and runs $500 a month straight through to 65. He finishes with $433,323. Of that, he contributed $144,000 himself. The market handed him the other $289,323. Now watch where in his life that money arrives. Across ages 41 to 49, his first 8 years, the balance grows by $66,934. That's 15% of his final total. Ages 49 to 57, the middle 8, add $126,670, or roughly 29%. Then ages 57 to 65, his last 8 years, add $239,718. That single stretch is 55% of everything he ends up with. His final 5 years alone produce $167,131. Nearly 39% of a 24-year project shows up inside its last 20% of time. In the 12 months before he turns 65, the account gains $32,732. He puts in $6,000 that year. The market is outworking him better than 5 to 1. So when your first decade feels like nothing is happening, that feeling is accurate rather than paranoid. It produced 15%. That decade isn't the payoff, it's the entrance fee, and there's no arrangement where you pay it late. Two things above deserve a hard look, and the first is that 8%. Since 1928, the S&P 500 has returned roughly 10% a year, with dividends reinvested. Subtract inflation, and it's closer to 7%. Those are long, defensible, well-documented figures. But Vanguard's own capital markets model was run at December 31, 2025. It projects U.S. equities at 3.9% to 5.9% annualized over the next 10 years. Their 2026 outlook says plainly that they expect muted U.S. stock returns, mostly because valuations are stretched. Rebuild the crossover at 5%, and it's a different video. A $500 savers line moves from 72,290 UBs up to $117,275. The wait stretches from 8.5 years to 13 years and 8 months. That's 5 extra years of opening statements and feeling absolutely nothing. Now the other side, because you deserve both. The last 10 years delivered somewhere around 15% a year. Muted return forecasts have been published before and missed badly. Nobody has a good record at 10-year predictions, including the firms publishing them. The useful move is holding both numbers at once. Plan around $117,275 and let 72,290s be a pleasant surprise. The second honest problem is the one that actually damages people. Crossing over isn't a permanent status you get to keep. It's a balance, and balances fall. At $72,290, a 20% down year costs you $15,000. That's 2.5 years of contributions erased inside 12 months. A 30% year takes $22,500, or almost 4 full years of your money. In 2008, the S&P 500 fell 37%, applied to $72,290. That leaves $47,250, and climbing back requires a 58.7% gain. So you'll likely cross this line, get shoved under it, then cross it again. Anyone selling you one triumphant moment is selling you a story. Here's the encouraging counterfact. In 2025, only 5% of Vanguard participants traded during periods of volatility. Sitting still is ordinary behavior now, not heroic behavior. The bigger threat sits closer to home. 6% of participants took a hardship withdrawal in 2025, the highest share Vanguard has ever recorded, up from 5% in 2024. The top reason given was stopping a home foreclosure, with medical costs second. A withdrawal at $72,290 doesn't just cost you the cash you pull out. It costs you the 8.5 years you already served to get there. Here's a way to price this line that beats any projection. Take Marcus at his crossover point, age 49.5, holding $72,707. Now have him stop completely. No more contributions ever, and he just leaves it alone until 65. He ends with $250,216. That's 58% of the $433,323 he'd have had by contributing for another 15 years. So reaching the line and then quitting still gets you well over half the outcome. That's how front-loaded the work is and how back-loaded the reward is. Run the same experiment earlier, and the picture collapses. Stop at 4 years in, holding $28,175, and he lands at $138,812. Call it 32%. Stop at year 6, holding $46,013, and he lands at $193,280, or 45%. Now the part worth writing down: compare quitting 2 years before ignition against quitting right at it. Year 6.5 leaves him $205,592. Year 8.5 leaves him $250,216. Those final 24 months of $500 add up to $12,000 of his own money. At 65, they're worth $44,624. Every dollar came back $3.72. That's the most expensive quitting window in your financial life. And it arrives at the exact moment the account looks most pointless. Crossover is the first ignition, and there's a second one worth more than the first. That's the year your portfolio's growth exceeds your entire salary. Not your contributions, but your whole annual income. The multiplier turns out to be identical. At 12 times, Marcus earns $68,000, so his second fire needs $819,282 invested. Renee earns $79,000, which puts hers at $951,813. And if returns run at 5% instead of 8%, Marcus needs $1,129,114. Marcus finishes with $433,323. So he never gets there. Renee finishes with $813,254, which is close and still short. I'm telling you that deliberately at a flat $500 a month. The second fire is out of reach for both of them. So here's what actually moves it. Marcus's $500 is 8.8% of his $68,000 salary. Suppose he raises that rate by 1 percentage point a year until he hits 15%, which takes him until age 48. His contribution grows from $500 a month to $850 a month, and then holds there. That change puts him at $650,558 by 65, instead of $433,323. He paid $85,680 more in contributions over 24 years and collected $217,235 more at the end. Every extra dollar came back about $253, and he's still short of $819,282. That's the honest version. The second fire is a high bar, and escalation gets most people closer rather than all the way. Vanguard's average total savings rate hit an all-time high of 12.1% in 2025. That's 7.6% from employees, plus a record 4.7% employer match. If you're at 7% of income and drifting, the distance to 15% is where your second fire lives. Renee crosses over at age 42.5. at a balance of $72,777. By 65, she's holding $813,254. She contributed $186,000, and the market added $627,254. Marcus crosses at 49.5, at that same $72,770 because he saves the same amount. By 65, he has $433,323. Renee put in $42,000 more than Marcus across those 7 extra years, and she ends up $379,932 ahead. Every extra dollar she contributed became $9.05 of the gap between them. Then there's Wendell, our hero, running $1,100 a month from 47. He crosses over at 55.5. carrying the largest crossover number of the 3 at $159,956. That leaves him $528.95 at 65. So he beats Marcus by $94,772. He also contributed $93,600 more than Marcus in order to do it. Now look at what the market handed each man. Marcus got $289,323 in growth, Wendell got $290,495. The gap between them is $1,172. Wendell outsaved Marcus by $93,600 by less than the price of a used dishwasher. He bought his retirement with cash. Marcus rented the same engine for 6 extra years and got it close to free. That contrast is the entire video in 2 figures. Renee's extra dollars returned $9 and $5 apiece, and Wendell's returned about a penny, none of which means Wendell was wrong. I'd tell anyone at 47 to do exactly what he did, and to do it today. Just be clear-eyed about the deal. Once your crossover window has closed, you're paying retail for the same result. 5 moves, and every one of them is small. Calculate your line first. Annual contributions including the match, multiplied by 12. Written somewhere you'll actually see it. Compare that line to your current balance. If you're above it, the market is already outsaving you, and you can drop the feeling that you're behind. Sitting under the line means only one thing moves your date, and that's refusing to stop. Not fund selection, not timing, not a hot sector. Check what you're paying in fees. 1% is worth 15 months of ignition delay and $61,371 of Marcus's retirement. Then protect the balance from yourself. Build a cash buffer outside the 401k. 6% of savers hit a wall last year and paid for it with their compounding. Compounding doesn't reward patience because patience is admirable. It rewards patience because the arithmetic is physically incapable of delivering early. Marcus's first 8 years produced 15% of his money. His last 5 years produced 39%. Same man, same $500, same fund. And the only variable that changed was the calendar. Your line is 12 times whatever you save in a year. From 0, it's 8.5 years out. If you already hold a balance, it's far closer than you'd guess. Nobody is going to call you on the day you cross it. So go find your number. It's the one figure that tells you whether you're still pushing this thing or whether it's caught. Gray Finances, money decisions made clear.